Highlighting history of suburban Sydney with the St Peter's Cooks River History Group.
Our aim is to preserve and promote local history.
We are based at St Peter's in Sydney's inner west.
Kogarah, 14 kilometres south of the Sydney CBD, is considered to be the centre of the St George area. The name is an Indigenous word meaning rushes or place of reeds. Various spelling was used until the current one became established when the railway was opened. Originally the suburb extended to Kogarah Bay until the separate suburbs of Kogarah Bay and Beverley Park were created.
John Townsend and James Chandler were two early major landowners. In 1848, subdivision of the area began.
Irish immigrant Matthew Carroll purchased land at Kogarah or Townsend's Bay in 1849. He built Sunnyside, which still stands on the Princes Highway. Over the years, the building has been flats, a Church of England rectory, kindergarten, primary school and boarding house. Recently, after being restored and sold, it was to be part of a proposed high-rise development. This was rejected by the local council.
Edmund English purchased 87 acres along a bush track in the wilds of St George. This bush track was the Kogarah Road, today's Princes Highway. He developed a market garden. The family's stone house, the homestead, was situated where Carlton South Public School now stands. The paddock of the homestead became Kogarah Park, dedicated as the first public park in Kogarah.
Other houses built by members of the English family are still standing in English Street. Number 45, the Laurels, has been a girls' school, private hospital, hostel and home for girls. Today it is an aged care facility. Number 52, Kogarah, built in 1882. Next door, Tarara, built 1894. 72 and 74, a pair of Victorian semi-detached houses, were named Thelma and T. Camarako. Number 49 is currently the offices of Kogarah Community Services.
The area was described as agricultural, with market gardens, orchards and vineyards. A small village developed. Inns, stores, churches and schools were established. With the provision of a punt across the Georges River at Tom Ugley's Point in 1864, the area became a major thoroughfare.
The Gardener's Arms was built in 1865 by Charles Bowen. The hotel closed in 1914 and was then a grocery store. It became the location of the St George Leagues Club in 1953 and later became a high school. The building was demolished in 2015. Today the site of St Patrick's Green Retirement and Residential Care.
Edmund English built the Kogarah Hotel on the corner of English Street and Princes Highway. In the 1990s it was a Dragon Restaurant. Today the Nan Tien Buddhist Temple.
A Roman Catholic stone church school building opened in 1866 on land purchased from Charles Bowen, the site of today's St Patrick's Roman Catholic Church. In 1914 a new school building was erected. This was enlarged in 1923. The foundation stone of the present church was laid in 1887. It took 50 years for the building to be completed according to plans. The tower, erected in 1936, was demolished in 1984.
In 1869, St Paul's Church of England opened. Land for the church, rectory and graveyard was donated by William Wolfen, Swedish consul to Sydney.
St Paul's Church School opened in 1870. It became independent of the church in 1876 and moved to a new stone building in Regent Street. In 1891 a new building was erected. A girls' intermediate, girls' domestic science and boys' commercial department were added to the primary classes in 1913. 3 years later, the girls' intermediate school moved to become St George Girls' High School. In 1920, a building was opened for a boys' intermediate high school. The infants and primary classes were moved to Gladstone Street on the old graveyard site of St Paul's Church. In 1963, Kogarah Coeducational High School was established. The 1891 school building was destroyed by fire in 1973.
With the opening of the Illawarra Railway in 1884, The village, which had developed around the junction of Rocky Point Road and Kogarah Roads, gradually moved to around the railway station.
Kogarah became a municipality in 1885, the population having reached the number required to have its own council.
The Kogarah to Sandringham steam tramway opened the following year. This was replaced by an electric trolley bus service in 1937, one of only two such services to operate in Sydney. Diesel buses were introduced in 1959.
The Railway Parade Hotel was built by John Parker in 1886, today the Kogarah Hotel.
With improved transport, Kogarah became a residential suburb. More churches were built.
The Methodist Church was built in 1886 and was extensively renovated in 1932.
The foundation stone of the Congregational Church was laid in 1886.
Both these churches, having become part of the Uniting Church, were demolished in 1986 to allow for the expansion of St George Hospital. Today, a Uniting Church known as the Storehouse meets in a converted 100-year-old factory.
A Presbyterian church was built in 1893. A Soldiers' Memorial Presbyterian Church was opened in 1928. Today these buildings are used for commercial purposes, and the Kirk Place Presbyterian Church meets in a modern building.
In 1887 the School of Arts opened. Council meetings, which had previously been held at the Gardeners Arms and railway station rooms, took place here until the council chambers were built in 1912. A civic centre opened in 1973.
The St George District Brass Band, founded in 1888, became the Kogarah Municipal Band in 1921.
The Oddfellows Hall, located on the corner of Regent Street and Rocky Point Road, became the Regent Hall in 1920. The front was altered in 1927.
In 1890, a post office was built. Today it is a community centre.
Taylor's Triangular Emporium, built in 1891, still stands on the corner of Railway Parade and Regent Street.
In 1894, the St George Cottage Hospital opened. Over the years, the hospital has been expanded. Today, St George is a major regional hospital. St George Private Hospital is located nearby.
In 1897, fashion entrepreneur Charles Barsby opened a store on Railway Parade. It was taken over by Walter Turner in 1906. Turner Brothers for many years was an iconic store.
Barsby's home, Connubia, on the corner of Webbers Road, later English Street, and Bellevue Street, had a private bowling green. It became the Brooklyn Private Hospital in 1915 and was demolished in 1973.
In 1907, a fire station opened on Grey Street. The fire brigade was originally located in two sheds on Kensington Street.
The Brett family had a bakery and pastry cook shop on Railway Parade. Brett's Hall was opened in Darby Street next to the open-air roller skating rink, which was also used as a cinema in the days of the silent screen.
The Maris brothers opened a primary school in 1909. Secondary students were enrolled in 1926.
In 1912, the St George Pharmacy opened on the corner of Belgrave Street and Railway Parade. It is still a pharmacy today.
St George Girls High School opened in 1916. The original school was located in Harrow Villa. In 1923, the foundation stone of a new building was laid.
Kogarah Courthouse opened in 1918. The first police station had been established in 1876. New police premises were built in 2003.
St George, the first county council in New South Wales, was established in 1920. Their headquarters were located at Kogarah. Houses and streets were gradually connected to electricity, with lights officially switched on in 1923. St George was amalgamated with the Sydney County Council in 1979.
The Victory Theatre opened in 1920. Remodelled in Art Deco style, the new Victory opened in 1936. The cinema was used by local schools for important events such as speech days. It was called the Avon in the mid-60s, becoming the Mecca in 1971. After closing for business in 2003, it was demolished in 2013 and the site developed for home units.
The St George District Rugby League Football Club was officially formed at the Kogarah School of Arts in 1920. They played their first premiership match on St George's Day, April the 23rd, 1921. In 1999, St George joined with the Illawarra Steelers to form the St George Illawarra Dragons.
In 1935, to mark the Golden Jubilee of the incorporation of Kogarah as a municipality, Jubilee Oval was built on Kogarah Park. In the 1980s, a new grandstand was erected. Since 2003, the Oval has been steadily upgraded. Today it is called the Nestrata Jubilee Stadium. Adjacent to the stadium is a Legends Walk, a pathway that acknowledges legendary St George players.
The Kogarah War Memorial, a marble column, was originally unveiled on Armistice Day 1923 near the fire station on Grey Street. It was moved to the current site in Kogarah Park and rededicated on Anzac Day 1967. Unlike most war memorials, the Kogarah Memorial does not list fallen local soldiers.
The St George Building Society was founded in 1937. Over the next 50 years it built a reputation as Australia's foremost building society before achieving full banking status in 1992. Today the St George Bank national headquarters is in a large building in Montgomery Street. The church in the bank meets in the auditorium.
In 1948, the Kogarah Musical Society gave its first performance, Sing As We Go.
The Grace Chinese Christian Church is located on Kensington Street.
The Kogarah Town Centre above the railway station opened in 1975. A $250,000 upgrade was carried out 5 years later. In 2013, a $25 million redevelopment was completed with a new Aldi supermarket and a refurbished Woolworths supermarket, among other improvements. A redevelopment plan for 3 19-storey apartment towers is being considered for the site.
The Town Square development has residential properties, the Kogarah Library and a range of retail and commercial businesses. The square is a unique space. It can accommodate special gatherings or festivities for up to 1,000 people. The Bruce Lee statue in the square marks the 1-year anniversary of Kogarah Council's friendship agreement with the city of Shondai, Lee's ancestral home.
Opposite the town square is the Resurrection of Christ Greek Orthodox Church.
Today, Kogarah is a mixture of residential and commercial areas with many educational facilities and healthcare services.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel. Coming soon, Bexley. The suburb takes its name from the birthplace of James Chandler, an early landowner. And check out our website, stpeterscooksriverhistory.wordpress.com.